I think that Catherine has apologised. She's accepted that she shouldn't have done this. It was a silly thing to do, but it was a genuine mistake, and we should move on. I don't think it helps when the White House starts sort of coming out saying, "Well, we would never do anything like this," trying to heighten the situation.
Digitally altered? Not that I know of. I would say no. Why would we digitally alter photos? Are you talking about? Are you comparing us to the what's going on in the UK?
I'm doing due diligence to ensure that the leader of another country wouldn't alter photos.
Why does the monarch have to do anything with us? No, that is not something that we do here.
I think that the problem here is that things moved very, very quickly. There'd been a lot of wicked speculation online about Catherine. They obviously decided to put out this picture, and they put it on their own their own platform, online platform. Look, it shouldn't have gone out like that in this modern world. It's dangerous to put out images that have been altered or tampered with due to the advancement of AI. But I don't think there was anything malicious or anything that they were trying to do which was sinister. I just think it was a genuine error. But for the White House to wade in, I think it's just unnecessary. I think they could have just said, "We're not going to get drawn into that." I think that it's worth stating that as soon as the big agencies, Reuters, AFP, AP, put this out, killed the photograph, that it was going to become a global issue, a big story. And so inevitably, the White House came out and made their comment, which just makes this pours fuel on the flames of the story. I personally think we should move on. As for Meghan and Harry, look, they've got their own way of doing things. They're not official. They're not a body like Buckingham Palace or Kensington Palace. That they are now putting their things out, which have been altered, and that in the past they may well have done that. But I think it's very important that the future king and queen don't get drawn into being like celebrities or being rushed into putting things out. What seems a bit daft to me is they do have a photographer with them, pretty much who's on their not on their payroll, but as part of their team, Andrew Parsons, who used to work for Boris as his in-house photographer. Why didn't they just use Andrew to take the photograph? It does seem a bit, just a little bit short-sighted by Catherine and William, because they're no longer the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge as such. They are the Prince and Princess of Wales, the heir to the throne. It's a different level, and I think that I know for a fact that the King had a whole load of photographs taken of him wearing all his historic uniforms. He didn't like them. He didn't think they were quite what he wanted, so he had them reshot with a portrait photographer with all the lighting. Because you've got to remember that everything that's taken, every photograph that's taken of the King and the Prince of Wales and their family, they're historic photographs that have got to stand up the test of time in 100, in 200, 300 years as we look back at Queen Victoria's photographs. So my feeling is I did feel sympathy for Kate, and I think they would sort of rushing it out on social media. But it's a lesson learned, because they're historic figures. Their children are historic figures, and we still look at photographs of Prince Charles when he was 5 years old and 10 years old as matters of record. And that's why the photographs of the royal children and of Kate and of William and of the King have to be of top quality and genuine photographs. And that, I think, I don't think the King would in any way criticise Catherine and William, what's gone on, but he's very particular about photographs that are taken because he is aware of his historic position, as was her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth. These trolls criticising William and Kate, I've written a piece about it before, saying I just think it's appalling. They'll attack them on anything. So I think that by giving a voice to what they do and what they say is pointless, because they're very, very cruel with the statements. I'll probably, just for saying what I'm saying today, I'll be attacked online with quite wicked and cruel comments. Really not necessary. I don't really want to give them too much of a voice, because I just totally disregard what they think and what they believe. Totally time to let of Kate. Kate has apologised. We should accept her heartfelt apology. It was a genuine error. I'm sure it won't happen again. I still think it was a mistake and shouldn't have happened. I don't think we should just dismiss it, because I don't think Kensington Palace should have put that picture out. for the reasons that authenticity and integrity and truth matters from organisations like the royal family. But it is time to AFK, and it is time for people not to get overly excited about this, because ultimately it's an error. She's admitted the error, and I'm pretty sure it won't happen again.
I think in the general sense, all these photographs have been tweaked one way or another. I was alerted to the Queen and Prince Philip's last Christmas card, where somebody said that the Queen's hand didn't look quite right. It was outside Windsor Castle, but I've always thought that that photograph actually was probably taken indoors, and they put a sort of castle background behind them. I don't know if you know the picture I mean. But so, it's just typical. The whole issue of this photograph was meant to put our minds at rest that Catherine was, looking happy with her children. And to begin with, it did exactly that. And it's quite possible, though, that if you want to get a photograph of a mother smiling and 3 children smiling, it's more than likely that perhaps one of them wasn't smiling, and you maybe had to change it. I don't know what they did, but unfortunately, the effect that that's had, of course, is that we begin to wonder. Not me personally, but people begin to wonder, whether they can trust the photograph at all. And so I think any remarks made by fans of the Sussexes shouldn't really be taken particularly seriously. And if the Sussexes have been tampering with their own Christmas card, well, that wouldn't surprise me either. But then, in a general sense, I think, most portrait photographs are touched up. I wrote a biography of Cecil Beaton. I know exactly what he used to do, to the extent that the Queen Mother once sent a photograph back saying, through her private secretary, Queen Elizabeth feels she hasn't been entirely untouched by the passing years. Could Mr. Beaton possibly remove some of the retouching? The most important point, quite honestly, is that William and Catherine must be living under the most enormous stress. We know that she's not well. We know she's had a serious operation. The King is unwell as we speak. Prince William and Catherine must, at certain times, wonder whether they could possibly succeed to the throne. They're only a heartbeat away from it. And whereas, up till now, the King's looked pretty well, there's been a hint of weakness with his illness and so forth. And so the stress on them must be enormous. And therefore, I think that people should indeed lay off them and let them recover, the 2 of them, as best they can. They've got 3 small children. All these things will be affecting them, and they don't need external forces getting at them unnecessarily. They're the great hope of the future, and we wish them well. I think it's all completely unfair. The sad thing is that the attempt to give us some news 3 weeks before we were expecting, because we were told maybe Easter we would hear something, or we might see her perhaps, that was all very positive, but it's all turned negative. And apart from the fact that she's having to get well after a big operation, she will be feeling very fragile, in every possible sense. So she does not need these attacks. So you're quite right. I mean, it's absolutely disgraceful that they should be doing it. But they're not the only people, as you know, because there's this huge furore in the media, and I'm sure it has a very bad effect, on her potential recovery. It's bound to.